All right, everybody, buckle up, because today we are diving headfirst into the deep end of the human psyche.
I love a good deep dive, and this one's a doozy.
We're talking hidden motives, the secret drivers behind pretty much, well, everything we do, and trust me, it's way more interesting than it sounds.
It really makes you question everything, doesn't it? I mean, what are the real reasons behind our choices, our actions, even our beliefs?
And that, my friend, is exactly what we're going to unpack today. We're talking Elephant in the Brain by Kevin Simler and Robin Hansen, if you had a chance to check it out.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those books that just stays with you. They really dig deep into this idea that we're not always honest with ourselves, even about our own motivations. We've got this whole subconscious world driving our decisions, and we're just along for the ride.
Like we're puppets, and these hidden motives are pulling the strings.
In a way, yes, but it's not always that sinister. Think of it more like we've got this inner press secretary in our brains, always trying to spin things in the best possible light.
So we're all just masters of self-deception. That's reassuring.
Well, it's not about being intentionally deceptive. It's more about understanding that there's often a disconnect between our conscious explanations for our behavior and the real underlying motives driving us.
Okay, I'm intrigued. But let's back up a bit. Why should we even care about these hidden motives? So what if we're not always aware of the why behind our actions? What's the big deal?
Well, Simler and Hansen argue that understanding these hidden motives is crucial for building better institutions, navigating complex social situations, improving our relationships, you name it.
So it's not just about self-awareness. It's about understanding the forces that shape our world.
Exactly. They believe that once we start to recognize these hidden motives, we can actually use that knowledge to make better choices.
Okay, that makes sense. But where do we even start? How do we begin to unravel these hidden motives? I mean, they're hidden for a reason, right?
Well, Simler and Hansen point to this concept of signaling as a key piece of the puzzle. It's rooted in evolutionary biology, and it suggests that we're constantly sending out signals to those around us, often without even realizing it.
Signaling, like smoke signals in carrier pigeons.
Not exactly. Think of it more like those elaborate mating rituals you see in nature documentary.
Oh, right. Like those birds of paradise with the crazy plumage.
Yeah.
They're not just showing off for fun, are they?
Nope. They're sending a clear message. Look at me. I'm healthy. I'm strong. I'm a worthy mate. And those signals have very real consequences in terms of attracting a partner and passing on their genes.
So those birds are basically saying, I'm the best there is, baby. Choose me.
Exactly. And it's not just birds. You see this signaling behavior all across the animal kingdom. Take primates, for example. They spend hours grooming each other, and it's not just about hygiene.
Right. They're building alliances, solidifying social bonds.
Precisely. It's a way of saying, I'm invested in this relationship. I'm willing to put in the time and effort to keep things running smoothly.
So those baboons are basically saying, I've got your back as long as you've got mine.
You got it. And here's where it gets really interesting. Humans have taken this signaling thing to a whole new level.
Oh, I bet. We do love a good show, don't we?
We've become masters at crafting our image, presenting the most flattering version of ourselves to the world. We're constantly trying to signal our intelligence, our status, our worthiness.
And this is where our inner press secretary comes into play, right? Always working behind the scenes, spinning the narrative.
Exactly. It's like that part of our brain that's always trying to justify our actions, even to ourselves.
So the next time I tell myself I deserve that extra slice of cake because I had a hard day, that's just my press secretary, hard at work.
You could say that. But the key takeaway here is that we're not always aware of the real reasons behind our actions. There's often a lot more going on beneath the surface than we realize.
So we're all running around sending these signals, trying to project the perfect image. But where do we even see this playing out in everyday life?
Oh, it's everywhere. We're practically swimming in a sea of signals. Take body language, for instance. It's not just about crossed arms and nervous fidgeting.
Right, there's a lot more to it than that.
It's about those subtle cues that reveal what we're really thinking or feeling.
Like what? Give me an example.
Picture this. You're in a meeting, and someone's giving a presentation. They're confident, they're making eye contact, they're taking up space. But then someone challenges their ideas, and suddenly their whole demeanor changes.
They shrink back a little, their shoulders slump, they avoid eye contact.
Exactly. Their body language betrays their insecurity, even if they're trying to maintain a cool facade.
It's like their body's telling a different story than their words.
Precisely. And it's not just in formal settings like meetings. Think about how we use body language in our personal relationships. A gentle touch on the arm, a lingering hug, even the way we angle our bodies towards someone we're attracted to.
It's like we're speaking a secret language with our movements and gestures.
And often, we're not even consciously aware of the messages we're sending. But our subconscious minds are picking up on those cues all the time.
It's both fascinating and a little bit creepy when you think about it.
It is, but it's also incredibly insightful because once you start paying attention to these nonverbal cues, you can learn a lot about the people around you and maybe even yourself.
I'm starting to feel like I need to brush up on my body language vocabulary.
Okay.
But what about other types of signals? What about something like laughter? Surely a chuckle is just a chuckle, right?
But even laughter has hidden depths.
You're kidding. Tell me more.
Well, think about it. We laugh when we find something genuinely funny, sure. But we also laugh to diffuse tension, to signal agreement, or even to mask our true feelings.
So when someone tells a bad joke and everyone laughs politely, they're not actually finding it funny.
They might be, but they're also sending a signal. I'm with you, I get it, I'm on your side. It's about maintaining social harmony.
It's like social lubrication. But what about when we laugh at someone else's expense? Like that slightly mean-spirited laughter when someone trips and falls.
Yes. That's where things get really interesting because that kind of laughter, as uncomfortable as it might be, can reveal a lot about our social dynamics.
Like what? Spill the tea.
Well, Simler and Hansen argue that the less empathy we have for someone, the more likely we are to find humor in their misfortune.
So if I laugh when my arch nemesis spills coffee on themselves, it's not because I'm a terrible person. It's because my brain is wired to find their misfortune amusing.
Essentially, it's not necessarily something we're proud of, but it's a natural human reaction. It goes back to that idea of signaling we're constantly assessing our social standing, and sometimes that means taking a little bit of pleasure in someone else's misfortune.
It's a jungle out there, folks. Even in the civilized world of office politics and dinner parties.
Exactly. But let's not forget about the positive side of laughter. It's also a powerful tool for building connections, diffusing conflict, and even strengthening relationships.
So the next time I crack a joke, I should ask myself, am I trying to be funny or am I just trying to fit in?
Maybe a bit of both. But the important thing is to be aware of the different ways we use humor and the signals it sends.
Good point. Okay, we've talked about body language and laughter. What about something a bit more complex, like conversations? We're always told to be good listeners, to engage in meaningful dialogue, but is there something more going on beneath the surface?
Oh, absolutely. Conversations are prime territory for signaling. Think about it. Every time we open our mouths, we're revealing something about ourselves. Our intelligence, our wit, our values, our social status. It's all on display.
So that story you tell at a party about the time you met Oprah.
Yeah.
You're not just sharing an anecdote. You're trying to impress everyone with your brush with fame.
Exactly. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just human nature to want to present ourselves in the best possible light.
So conversations are basically just elaborate mating dances, disguised as polite chit-chat.
Well, it's not always about romance. We're also signaling to potential friends, colleagues, collaborators, anyone we might want to form a bond with. We're constantly trying to assess our compatibility, our shared interests, our place in the social hierarchy.
It's making me rethink every conversation I've ever had.
But that's the beauty of it. Once you start to understand these underlying dynamics, you can navigate social situations with more awareness and intention.
I like the sound of that. So how do we become better conversationalists then? Give us the inside scoop. All right, so we've covered body language, laughter, conversations. It seems like everything we do is sending out these signals, whether we realize it or not. But what about the things we buy? Our taste in music, our clothes, our gadgets, are those just extensions of our personality, or is there something more going on there?
Oh, there's always more going on. Simler and Hansen would argue that our consumption habits are a prime example of signaling in action. They call it conspicuous consumption.
Conspicuous consumption. So it's not enough to just have nice things we have to make sure everyone knows we have them.
Exactly. Think about it. Why do people buy designer handbags, luxury cars, or those outrageously expensive watches?
Because they can.
Well, yes, but also because those items send a very clear signal about their wealth, their status, their taste.
So it's like those bowerbirds we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
meticulously crafting their nests to attract a mate. We're just doing the human equivalent, building our own little nests out of luxury goods and experiences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're constantly trying to outdo each other, signal our worthiness, and climb that social ladder. And the more exclusive or expensive the item, the louder the signal.
So that new iPhone isn't really about having the latest technology. It's about showing everyone that you can afford it.
You got it. And it's not just about material possessions either. Think about the restaurants we choose, the vacations we take, even the charities we support.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. We post pictures of our gourmet meals on Instagram, share stories about our exotic travels. It's all part of curating that perfect image.
Precisely. We're constantly sending out signals about our values, our lifestyle, our tribe. It's all part of this complex social dance.
It's exhausting when you think about it. So if consumption is all about signaling, what about something like art? Surely that's about pure creativity and self-expression, right? Not some calculated attempt to impress the neighbors.
Well, Simler and Hansen might argue that even art can be a form of signaling, albeit a more subtle one.
Oh, wow.
Think about it. When you create a work of art, whether it's a painting, a sculpture, a piece of music, you're putting yourself out there for the world to judge. You're showcasing your talent, your creativity, your unique
Okay,
perspective.
that's true. But isn't that just part of being an artist?
It is, but it also ties back into this idea of signaling. By creating something beautiful, thought-provoking, or even just technically impressive, you're sending a signal about your intelligence, your skill, your ability to create something of value.
So that avant-garde art installation,
Yeah.
it's not just about challenging norms and pushing boundaries. It's also about saying, hey, look at me, I'm smart and edgy.
You could say that, but on a deeper level, it's also about connecting with others who share your sensibilities, your values, your understanding of the world.
So art can be a way of finding your tribe, so to speak.
Absolutely. It's a way of signaling your affiliation with a particular group, a movement, a way of seeing the world. And that can be incredibly powerful, both for the artist and the audience.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all ties together.
Mm.
But let's talk about something a little less conceptual.
Hmm.
What about charity? Surely that's a purely altruistic act, right?
Yeah.
We give because we care, not because we want to impress anyone.
Of course. Genuine altruism absolutely exists. But even charitable giving can have an element of signaling involved.
Really? How so?
Think about it. When we donate to a cause, especially publicly, we're sending a signal about our values, our priorities, our willingness to contribute to the common good.
So it's like saying, look at me, I'm a good person, I care about others.
Exactly. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's just important to be aware of those underlying motives, even when we have the best of intentions.
So even our most selfless acts might not be entirely selfless. That's kind of a tough pill to swallow.
It is. But remember, acknowledging these hidden motives doesn't diminish the good that we do. It just helps us understand ourselves, our motivations, and the complex web of social interactions that shape our world.
This has been a real eye-opener. I feel like I need to go back and re-examine every interaction I've ever had.
Me too. But that's the beauty of this book. It really makes you think differently about human behavior.
It certainly does. Well, listeners, we've covered a lot of ground today, but I have a feeling this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the hidden motives driving our behavior. If you're as intrigued by this topic as we are, I highly recommend checking out Elephant in the Brain for yourself. It's a fascinating and thought-provoking read that will change the way you see yourself and the world around you. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep an eye out for those elephants in the brain. You never know where they might be hiding.